At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms. Not only that, today many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps.
Observations TFR, 9:30 a.m. Pacific, 12:30 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday.
What's going on, people? What's going on, people? Welcome to another great episode of #TFR Podcast Live. I'm your host, Crazy D. My special guest host seems to be missing in action right now, but no problems about that because we have it all taken care of and all under tow. This is our 100th episode of #ObservationsTFR. The phone lines are open, 213-943-3358, 213-943-3358. Again, I'm Crazy D, and this is Truth Thursdays. It's the 100th episode of #ObservationsTFR. As I do some last minute promotions here. Yes, good morning to everyone that is watching us right now. We appreciate your viewership. We want to shout out to everyone that is watching us on the following, on Vimeo, on FB, and of course on YouTube, on the Film Review Life channel, and You Found the Spot channel. Make sure that you subscribe to both of those channels on YouTube because we are live and we simulcast from both of those channels. All right. So welcome to everyone who is tuned in. We appreciate you. I see that Scott is watching. Good morning to you. All right, people. So this is our 100th episode. And what is the topic for today? We're celebrating the 100th episode of Observations TFR, but we're still on the task to expose the money grab, which is the Commission on Reparations. The phone lines are open, 213-943-3358. We're celebrating our 100th episode, and we take a look at where we've been and continue on with where we're going. So you always have to know where you've been to know where you're going. Tune in because the CBC did that CBC-thing to get the Congress to okay $20 million plus to create a commission on reparations. I don't know about you, but creating a commission where people get paid to research while American blacks suffer under inequity is a problem. Someone is getting paid, but it won't be American blacks. Plus, we cover more uncomfortable truths on Truth Thursdays. Tune in. The phone lines are open. We want to hear from you. Thank you for the congratulations on, having the 100th show. We appreciate you tuning in and giving us those congratulations. Okay, people. So let's get started with what we usually get started with first, which is the memes. Now, everyone knows what's happening, what's going on in Houston, what's going on in Texas. The state of Texas is the fourth day, 4.4 million people affected. Now, not only is there a electrical grid problem, but there is a water shortage problem, and there is a problem with livestock, right? Livestock with the milk. The dairy farmers are pouring out and destroying milk, right? Not that we drink milk or whatever ourselves, not from the cow. It might be almond milk or something like that, but not from the cow. But for those who do drink it and for their economy, what's happening with the snow situation, with the snowstorm situation is really a problem. So look at this. This is an example of what's going on. This is like in someone's home or in someone's business. I see those look like business doors, but this fan here, the water ran in and then it froze on the fan. Have you seen this? Smash the share button, smash the like button. Have you seen this? I mean, this is amazing. This is something. They have no electricity. Well, this place seemed to have had electricity, but they won't have electricity long if that water went all the way along the line and took that out, froze that up. They won't have it for long. So that's an example of what they're seeing in Texas right now, right? And here's another. This one came from Mailman MBA MED. He wrote in his meme, "Don't run your cars in the garage to stay warm. Don't run your cars in the garage to stay warm. Do not run your cars in the garage to stay warm because most likely you will expire from carbon monoxide poisoning." So that is a reasonable, that isn't a reasonable meme to write, because obviously people haven't been heeding or realizing that they can die from carbon monoxide poisoning. They seem not to have realized that they can die from carbon monoxide poisoning, right? So let's keep moving here. This is our 100th episode. We appreciate you tuning in. We have a lot to discuss today, right? So let's move on here. Now, there was a Texas mayor. A Texas mayor had a lot to say. This comes from CBS. Do you know that CBS is refusing to clear what we did the other day? So that's why I use their particular press coverage, because they refuse to release what we covered the other day. Now, when I'm dealing with NBC through Universal or whatever, they will release what we're talking about and say, okay, that is fair use, but not CBS. Now, we were talking about Microsoft, and he was talking about this fungus burger that he wants everybody to start eating, and he wants everybody to start eating this fungus burger. And so we were just giving our critique on what he was doing when he was with Anderson Cooper being interviewed. And CBS will not release that as fair usage. So I decide that, I'm going to go on ahead and, constantly use CBS coverage, right? So this is one side of the coverage. Texas mayor resigns after telling residents, despite desperate for power and heat, only the strong will survive. Only the strong will survive. Can you believe that? Only the strong will survive. Now, Puffy's revolt covered it slightly different. The Texas mayor blames lazy residents expecting handouts amid power water outage. And then old Todd had to resign from being mayor, right? Because, he's calling them lazy and wanting handouts. Who was he talking about? Who was he talking about? And then telling them basically that only the strong will survive. Now, with 40 dead already, and probably the count is going to go higher because there's no electricity, there's no running water, there's no way to boil the water because you need electricity to even pop the eye unless you have some kind of external generator, but then you can't use the generator because it's so cold outside. I mean, it's just, survivalists. Like, I wonder how the survivalists are doing. If there's some survivalists, call on up, 213-943-3358. If there are survivalists, call up. We would like to hear from you. How are you surviving in Texas right now? You obviously can't rely on government because government has somehow and in many ways let you down on this one. Now, here's something else about Texas, right? Live updates. Misery deepens in Texas as a new storm threatens the East Coast. Amid widespread power losses, millions of Texans were also advised to boil their water for safety. However, they can't boil their water because they don't have gas because gas is frozen. Another winter storm was spreading across much of the country with several inches of snow predicted. So you've got several inches of snow predicted, right? And you have this spreading across. Like, what are people going to do? 213-943-3358. Whatever you want to talk about today, because this is Truth Thursdays. What you want to talk about? Talk about the topic that we have, or if you want to talk about something else, we are there to definitely discuss it, right? Like, what are they supposed to do with this inevitability that this is going to be catastrophically bad for the people who are in Texas who have not practiced survival tactics. What are they to do? All right? Let's bring this down. Next one up. CBS. Again, this one is another CBS ad. Now, just a week before, February 12th, video captures Texas mom tackling man accused of peeping into her daughter's window. Just a week before this snowstorm happened on February 12th, everything seemed normal in Texas to the point that a video captures police dash cam, to be specific, captures Texas mom tackling man accused of peeping into her daughter's window. Right? And she does tackle him. She does a side step on him. He was 19 years old. He's charged with looking through the window at her daughter. She tackled him like a true linebacker for sure. Right? Unbelievable. Tackled him and held him until the police could catch up to put the cuffs on him. Now, so before we go on with the memes, I have to say this is our 100th episode of hashtag ObservationsTFR. Right? So we have a special video presentation created to commemorate where we began, and then we're going to keep on going to where we are going, right? So let's listen to this real quick. And of course, you know what we're going to do. We're going to stop in between and give our commentary on what we see, right? So let's go on ahead and push this, press play, and let's see where we began, right? Video, let's see here. Yep, here we go. All right, so let's play. All right, people. Listen, this is a new show. Let me see if I can bring in my co-host with me. There we go. We've got my guest co-host, Tanya M. Congress. How you feeling today?
I am pretty good today, but I'm not seeing you. Where you at?
You're not seeing me? Oh yeah, on the screen though, you may not see me, but they're seeing us both. And we are live.
Okay. Got it.
We are perfect streaming. So there's a lot of interesting things going on. So many interesting things going on that it takes more than just one show to bring them to you. Because, the film review is primarily the film review show, but we have politics, society. This show is going to just have observations on what we see, possibly on a daily basis. So you see, when you start a new program, you have to lay the ground rules. Let me take a sip of my water and coconut water. When you start a new program, you have to lay the ground rules. You have to lay the rules of the game so people will know what you are doing. So this was perfectly laid out because, the flagship hashtag TFR Podcast Live comes on Sundays at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern on Sundays, where we review movies, music, culture, politics, society on a podcast called hashtag TFR Podcast Live. So as we embarked on this show, this is episode 1 of the show. As we embarked on the show, and as you see, as the clips go forward, you will see the advancement of the show up to where we are today. As we advanced in the show, you will see advancement. But here we laid the ground rules down that this was hashtag ObservationsTFR. That is hashtag ObservationsTFR. and that we give our observations, our opinions on what's happening in situations and in happenings that is happening around the world on a daily basis. And since we kicked off, we have been on 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. We are on at 9:30 a.m. Pacific, 12:30 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday with hashtag ObservationsTFR. So let's continue on. And let's watch the advancement of it. So get ready, people, because this is going to be a barn burner once this gets started, right? You getting the first show. So we're starting off, and as usual, I have to say, how's your morning been so far?
My morning has been pretty good. I went to sleep last night with a certain type of music playing in my ears really, really low. And it was a frequency that contributes to you waking up with energy by those different sound frequencies. So I did wake up with energy this morning. I took all of my supplements, which the list is very long this morning. And I did my skin treatment, which is all natural skin treatment using things right around your home. And so I'm noticing the difference already in just 2 days of use of my skin treatment. So I'm doing good this morning, really good. I have converted to, and it's difficult. Sometimes I go back to the fish, but I'm trying to convert to a completely plant-based diet. And actually I feel much better doing the plant-based products, and lots more green vegetables like kale, spinach, and I do like seaweed as well. So I feel better, looking better, thinking better, thinking clear. So yeah, I'm good. All of that in a nutshell means I'm good.
That is good to hear. Listen, people, 213-943-3350. Okay, let's get this started. Let's start with breaking news now, stuff that is happening in the media right now. Let's start right here. Let's start with this guy right here. Andrew Gillum. Now, everybody remembers Andrew Gillum. He was the rock star of the Democrat Party. He was the rock star of the Democrat Party. And he was going to be on his way up, and he was the one that was making it happen. But a derailment took place. That had to do with a hotel. Well, let myself then, on our 15th episode at the time, going. You can see the development of the episodes as we have the number in the corner, and we have everything that we're going to talk about laid out in front of the host, I, who control the gears and the knobs and the mechanism to make the show jump. So let's, in my own words, from me then, last year, tell you what was happening. He was supposedly a rising star in the Democrat Party. He was supposed to be a rising star in the Democrat Party. But late last year, he was found in a hotel room. Some pictures have been taken by what they say were 2 Caucasian escorts, male, and something was done with some kind of drug, and Andrew Gillum's viewer discretion is advised at this moment. Butthole. Something was happening, and it caused him to be incapacitated. And he was out for the count, and they took the pictures and they released it. And he said he had to go into rehab. And rehab people went from going to rehab to being on Tamron Hall's show. That's right. So you definitely need to tune in to episode 15, right? Episode 15, we play a little bit of Tamron Hall Show, and then we give, of course, our critique on that. So that's episode 15. Now we're moving into episode 25. By this time, you see black people waiting on CNN to tell them what to be upset about next. That was one of the memes that we would have in place for at least about 25 of the shows. So let's push through. As you see, we're building on design. So let's continue on. This is episode 25.
213-943-3358. I am not a Dixiecrat Party coon. I am not a Repub Party coon. I am not a liberal, what do they call that? A nonpartisan coon, or any of that other left and righty, whatever you want to call it. I'm none of that. I'm for American black. So when
That's right. I'm an American black man. Let's continue.
we are coming up here and we are talking about American blacks and the advancement of American blacks.
Now, those episodes between 25 and 50 laid out in detail. We brought information to the people about the importance of the vote, the importance of your vote at that time, at that moment in time. Let's continue on.
Let's continue on. Here we go. So now, after you go through all the modules, because we have to give you a full assessment of what's going on. After you go through all the modules and then you pull back up and you find something, you thought that the third module was about you, but you open it up and it's really about making the struggle of the Latino and the struggle of the Asian, who appears not to be in any deficit of employment because they have their own businesses.
Now, what modules are we talking about right here on the show? What modules are we talking about here on the show? We're talking about the modules on Biden's illustrious plan when he was running for president. We laid out those modules and we laid out in detail. We went over every aspect of what was going on with Biden's plan. And so here, after you went through, you had to scroll down some pages before you got to anything that had to do with American blacks. And finally, you come to the Lift Every Voice and Sing, the Biden plan for Central America, and the Biden plan for immigration. Everything that was on Biden's platform, most of his platform had to do with immigrants. So let's continue on.
To try to make those, to conflate those and make those equal to American black. Black, Latino, Asian, equal to American black. Okay? So after you see that, then you go down a little further, and this seems like to me that old Sanders, find out who his campaign person is. Her name is Sanders. I'm trying to get her first name. It seems like she said, hey, let's just throw this in and let's just wedge American blacks at the left of it, and then just put Central America in there, and then put the Biden plan for immigration. Okay.
What do American blacks, Central Americans, and Latinos have in common? What do American blacks, Central Americans, and immigrants have in common? Not a damn thing, because we are American citizens, born in this country, built the country. So why would we be in the same line on his proposed plan for anything when we should be standing by ourselves? Or we would be set there with an individual module that had to do with what he wanted to do with the coal miners in West Virginia. You see, we're talking about equivalency here, and not false equivalence because we are citizens of the United States, not immigrants, not people from Central America.
So lift every voice, the Biden plan for Black America. Why is the phrase to the song, lift every voice and sing, in something that's supposed to be taken as something that should be taken in politics as serious? Why is there a name of a song put in the middle of this? Hey, look, I would like a Democrat operative or a Republican operative, because we're going to get on Donald Trump in a second, right? Okay, Simone Sanders, that's her name. Thank you, Tracy Latrice. She pulled it up real quick. Simone Sanders, listen. It would appear, just looking at it, when you look at this is an insult to American blacks by just what's written.
The Biden plan for securing our values as a nation of immigrants. The Biden plan for securing our values as a nation of immigrants. Right? And we were warning you. And why is this important now? Why is this important now? Let me take a break from our remembering where we were, and let's look at where we are today. What is Biden unveiling today? What is he unveiling today? He is unveiling President Biden to unveil immigration bill on Thursday. Today is Thursday. This is national and worldwide situation. This is what he is unveiling today. President Joe Biden walks on the south lawn of the White House after stepping off Marine One Wednesday, February 17, 2021 in Washington, D.C. Biden was returning to Washington after participating in a town hall event in Wisconsin where he said that he would be unveiling his immigration bill. And what does his immigration bill say? I would usually have my reader to read that today, but she's not here right now, so we're going to go through it. Right? Let me bring this up a little bit. Bring this there. Let me bring this back because we want you to see this, right? So, what does his bill represent? It cuts the time that a dreamer has from 13 years to 8 years, even down to 4 years, depending on how long they've been in the country. Let's see what else. It assists the immigrants that have been here since January 2021, that they will have a pathway to citizenship. But the critics to that say, how are you going to know when they were there when you're doing shoddy paperwork as you're letting the people cross the border? And as always, just like in the Biden plan for securing our values as a nation of immigrants, it gives the immigrant a green card, gives the immigrant the ability to have gainful employment, able to get them an individual TIN number, able to then be able to vote, because then they will be able to go get a driver's license with that individual TIN number, and they will be able to afford housing. They will have subsidized housing provided for them. We're not talking about subsidized housing. We're not talking about subsidized housing like projects. We're talking about subsidized housings in the suburbs where they're living right next door as if they could really afford the house under their situation. Plus, they have guaranteed health care. Now, Americans don't have guaranteed health care, but the people here under Biden's plan, it was originally Biden's plan, but now it is Biden's legislation, the immigration bill. And we told you about this and we warned you, and it's been nothing but a thick recipe of just that, of talking about that. It's just been a thick recipe of talking about giving the immigrant, but the American black was not promised anything for the vote. And thus and so, there's been nothing talked about in his first month in the presidency about American black people. Not even the race equity plan. The race equity plan is not about, the race equity plan is not about race equity for American blacks. It turns into something about Asians and immigrants, right? Turns into something about Asians and immigrants. We have a phone call from 612. Let's see, let's bring 612 up. 612, you're on the air. Who are we speaking with? What's on your mind?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, brother. My name's Mike. Thanks for taking my call. How you doing today?
All right. How you doing today? What's on your?
Doing good. I couldn't agree with you more when it comes to Biden. I was just saying prior to the election that once he gets in, he's going to forget about the whole black issues and everything he was talking about, and they're going to pivot towards illegal immigration because their whole goal has never been about solving issues or helping people. None of it. It's about power. They want to use this whole amnesty thing to turn Texas into a blue state. That's it. Because their goal is one thing and one thing only, to set up permanent one-party power, cut the Republicans out, put themselves in a position where they can then pass all kind of laws to make it where their competition can no longer get in. And then they are going to set in a totalitarian government that's going to allow them to have total control. And what you and I or anyone thinks is going to be irrelevant. And they're going to be unchallenged. That's what their mission is. And they're just using certain groups along the way to help them accomplish it.
Okay. So I don't necessarily disagree with you on that, but traditionally when, I was watching a program and the younger Hispanics like to be called Latinx. The older Hispanics, though, like to be called Hispanic, which is not really a ethnic term for them. It was actually a racial slur at one time, but they like to be called Hispanics, especially Cubans. Cubans like to be called Hispanics. Traditionally, once the Hispanic population, if they be Cuban, Puerto Rican, Mexican, El Salvadorian, whatever they are, once they come over here and they look at what America is, it's a republic, that's a democracy with a federal run government, they usually end up voting Republican. It's been happening ever since Carter thought that the Cuban exiles would come over and vote Democrat, but they voted Republican. So are they not, let's see what your opinion is, are they not risking alienating the American black voter base by relying on something that has never actually ever materialized for them?
So you got to break them down by groups. Remember, the Latinos or Hispanics, whatever you want to identify them as, they're not a homogenous group. Like you pointed out, you got Cubans, you got Venezuelans, you got Puerto Ricans, you got the Mexicans, people from El Salvador, Costa Rica, and so forth. So depending on where they come from can shape their views. So in your point, when you talk about Cubans and Venezuelans who in Florida, like in the last election, voted heavily for Trump, their views when it comes to Republican Democrat is shaped by the negative things that happened to them under the communist regime. And so they look at Democrats as being close to communists, therefore that's why they have that kind of resistance towards them. Now, when you talk about Central Americans from Guatemala, Costa Rica, Mexicans, even some people from certain South American countries, that's not the same thing. And so when we talk about amnesty, we're talking about legalizing anywhere from 10, and I think the number is actually in the more than 20, 25 million of people who entered here illegally, a lot of them from Mexico and from Central America, that a lot of them are actually very liberal in their politics. And so the Democrats know that black vote's not going anywhere. They're not worried about it. They have no concern whatsoever because they know if black people vote, they're going to vote for them. So there's no need to be concerned. So now they're looking at it like, if they can legalize these 10, 20, 25 million people, whatever the number may be, they're confident that the vast majority of them will look at the Democrats as the reason that they are given the citizenship, and they're going to vote for them, in particular the state of Texas. This is all about Texas. Don't get it twisted. Because the Democrats know if they turn Texas blue, it's game over for the Republicans. We won't have another Republican president in our lifetime. So that's what their mindset is. That's what they're focused on. And it's a smart move on their part because they know how things are laid out. So I don't think they're not worried the slightest about black people at all. They're showing it in their actions. Now, think about it. Since they came in, have you heard anything from Biden about any of the black issues he was talking about in the campaign?
Well, actually, to be truthful, he wasn't talking about black issues whatsoever. Not really. I mean, he was when he had the meeting with the CBC and a few of the pastors were there, and he pretty much glamored them girls like a pimp and was telling them, I can't do anything with executive orders with that, and you need to get with the Hispanics because they are our larger voting base, a voting bloc. You need to get with them. And then when you hear people like Al Sharpton get on TV afterwards and say, he was very receptive, but then when you hear the leaked tape, he was basically yelling at them. So he has really never really said anything about black issues or never promised anything. Give me one thing that he promised American blacks that he would do for them if he was speaking about black concerns. Give me one thing that he said he promised he was going to do.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I can't name a specific policy that I could actually point out, but it was more of that, I would say more of the lip service, like you talked about, the sort of like making it seem like he cares type thing. But I agree. I mean, I don't think he does at all. I think the Democrats as a whole just take the black vote for granted. And to me, they have no respect for black people, period. They view us as, intellectually dumb, easily manipulated, emotion-based thinking. And so they know all they have to do is throw out the whole racist. And that's enough to get us to come out because they view black people as non-logical voters, that it doesn't matter the policy. You just got to manipulate their emotions to get them to vote for you. So now on the flip side, when you look at, for example, when it came to with the whole issue of amnesty and illegal immigration, the Democrats understand right now, if you look at their policies, all their policies are designed to eliminate liberties and civil liberties and individual rights and grow government power. That's the most basic way to sum up the Democratic agenda. Take away individual liberties like the First Amendment, the right to arm and defend yourself, private health care. So if we go down the list here, and everything is about giving the government more power. Power of your life, power of what you can say, what you can think. And we see it in pop culture through the social media and Twitter, and everything is all about the whole cancel culture thing of controlling what you can say. And they're using techniques that was done in communist countries like in North Korea, where they'd have a practice where someone would stand up in front of a crowd, a group of people, wherever at a meeting, and they would admit to whatever bad things they did, and then everyone in the room would point at them and accuse them of certain things they saw them doing wrong. Now, that was a groupthink mechanism that the communists used to control the population and keep them from engaging in rebellion against the government. And if you look at today's American culture, Americans who traditionally were a country where you could freely say what you...
Okay, you're going in and out, Mike.
Think in a way.
You're going in and out, but continue. Let's hope you don't keep going in and out.
Honestly, I apologize. I'm not driving. I'm sorry. But no, the only thing I'm trying to say is that the American mind in this country is being conditioned to being under a totalitarian government, which is what the Democratic agenda is. See, the Democrats are very good at their marketing. They understand how to portray things and give a perception to manipulate people's emotions to get them to think that what they're voting for when it comes to Democrats will benefit them. But in reality, it's empowering the government, taking away your actual individual rights, and allowing them to have total, absolute control without any accountability and restraint whatsoever, which is what the Constitution is. The Constitution of this country is an anti-government power document. If you look at a lot of the things we have in the Bill of Rights, some of the laws that we have in there, they're all about things the government can't do to you as individuals. They're trying to take that all away because they know the minute they get that totalitarian state in place, there's nothing we as the people can do about it. There's nothing we can do. You can't democratically take that out. You can democratically vote in a totalitarian state. You cannot democratically vote it out. It can only be taken out through force. That's what history has shown us. So that's what they're doing right now. That's why right now they could care less about the black vote. Their focus is if we amnesty all these illegal immigrants in America, if we get these 20-some million people legalized, they're going to vote. They're going to look at us as the reason they're able to be a citizen in this country, and they're going to give us the power, the electoral power we need so that we can implement our system. And then once we get it in place, we don't have to worry about the vote ever again. We'll have total power. So that's the game we're facing. The question is, are people in America going to be awake to this, see what's going on, and try to stop it before it happens, or are they going to allow their emotions to be manipulated, to be conned, to be played into the system, and fall for the bait? Because the bait is the social program. The bait is government health care. The bait is we're going to give you X, Y, and Z. And all you got, once you bite on that hook, then they got you, they can drag you in. So it's up to Americans to see what they're going to choose. But we'll see where this country's going.
Okay, so they have Mr. Magoo for you. People chose Mr. Magoo for you. The American black chose Mr. Magoo for you. I didn't vote for either one because both of them, racist 1, racist 2, they weren't good for me. Fed up. Biden was the one who implemented 101, 3 strikes you're out. Before that, he was talking other shit when he was in there. What is the solution? We look for solutions on hashtag ObservationsTFR. What is the solution? What is your solution to this problem?
The solution is we need to preserve what we currently have before it gets taken away. And I say this because there's a lack of appreciation in this country from people, not just the black community, but Americans as a whole, for a lack of understanding of what you actually have in America. Because Americans have been programmed through politics to always view everything negatively. See what you don't have, or compare yourself to some rich person and look how they live, or compare to you, or look at this and look at that, not realizing that you're part of the 7 billion, almost 8 billion people on this planet. And out of the 8 billion people that live on this earth, and all the billions of human beings that live before us, we live in the highest state of living that has ever existed in human history. The stuff we take for granted, like eating every day, having electricity, having water, having multiple changes of clothing, multiple pair of shoes, having a bed to sleep in, a roof over your head, these are things that Americans completely take for granted. They don't think it's a big deal. Because Americans have been spoiled in this land of opportunity and freedom that the American standard for what they call oppression is very low. American oppression, there's even no such thing as American oppression in 2020. It's ridiculous. You live in a country where you can freely practice any religion, you can freely express any views you want publicly, you can freely criticize the government. These are rights that most people on this earth do not have, and that definitely almost everyone that came before us did not have at all. And in fact, you live in a country where there's so much food, you got an obesity epidemic because everybody in this country eats too much. I mean, this is the only country on the planet where the people that are considered part of the poverty class, the lower income bracket, are walking around at 300-400 pounds. That doesn't exist anywhere else. Everywhere else in the world, people who are obese, that's considered like a status symbol that you got money. But in America, you can have somebody on welfare who's 350 pounds.
So solution,
Mike. 3, 4, 5 times a day.
Solution, Mike. Solution.
That is an example of a country that like you're living like kings compared to what your forefathers used to live like. You know, if you look at the size of human beings 100, 200 years ago, even 50, 60 years ago, people were much smaller than we are today. I'm talking about like height, stature, their physical build, because people didn't eat that much. Food was hard to get back in the day. Food is hard to get in a lot of parts of the world now. But in America, you can get food anytime. I don't know anybody, unless they're on like some diet or they're fasting, that doesn't eat every day. In fact, not just eat every day once. Most people in America eat every day 3 times. But in a lot of parts of the world, people eat 3 times if they're lucky in a week. But in America, even in prison, in American prison, people eat 3 times a day. In jail. But people in America, you talk to them, you would think they're living in the Soviet Union. Like they're living in some kind of like hard, terrible place. It's like, no, bro, you live in the freest, most prosperous, most opportunity-laden country that has ever existed, which is why people from all over this world risk their lives to get here. Mike, their children do than anywhere else they were from.
Mike, I hear you on your soapbox. I hear the point. We need a solution. What is the solution to what is happening to American blacks right now and the rest of America? Because like I tell people, I'm not an immigrant. I'm not a Latino. I'm not any type of immigrant, so don't pack me in. I don't. When Donald Trump came down the escalator in 2016 and said they're thieves, they're robbers, they're bad people, they're carrying drugs across the border, I did not equate myself in with immigrants that he was talking about coming across the Mexican border. So what we're looking for is solution because black people voted for this. What is the solution? What is one of your solutions to it?
All right, so okay. Well, you're obviously saying you're not an immigrant, you're an African American. I myself, I am an immigrant. I'm from Africa. So I'm an Ethiopian by descent. It's my national origin. I came here when I was 2, so I basically grew up here. But so that's why I said what I said about the perspective issue.
How old were you? Wait, Mike. Mike. This is an interesting.
Mike, living in the gutter, eating
Mike. Hold it. Let's have this discussion because this is going to get real interesting now. Okay. So when I break in to ask you something, just break for me so we can have a to and fro in conversation. Okay. How old were you when you first?
Yes, sir.
How old were you when you first arrived in this country?
I was 2.
Okay, 2 years old. So you would be. I mean, they have the face of the dreamer as a Hispanic, but you would be a dreamer also. Would I be right about that?
No, I'm a naturalized citizen. I'm an American.
Okay.
The Dreamers applies to specifically it's mostly Latino.
Okay.
I'm from Africa.
Okay. So
my family came here legally.
Okay, so
it's not like the Dreamers is a situation where your parents came in illegally, but that individual may have been born in America or they were a child when they came over with their parents. That's what the Dreamer classification applies.
No. I'm glad that you gave me clarity. I just wanted to make sure. So your parents came over legally and took the oath to uphold the United States of America, studied everything, and learned what America was by the precepts of what they taught to become a naturalized citizen in America. Is that right?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay. Now, your parents came in. When did your parents come into the United States of America?
1989.
Okay, 1989. Okay. So when you came into America in 1989, you wouldn't know, but I'm sure that you have talked to your parents and you're political, which that's good. What was the instructions to, what part of Africa do you come from? What nation?
Oh, Ethiopia.
Ethiopia, okay. What was the instruction as far as conversating or dealing with American black people in this country? Were your people educators or were your people workers? Were your people who were about Pan-Africanism, or were they for individualism, sticking with my particular Ethiopian group where we are and not dealing with American blacks here in this country?
No, they were just like regular people. They just came in, got a job, wanted their kids to go to school. You know what I mean? Both my parents worked 2 jobs. You know, like we barely even talked. They worked so much just to be able to help, save up money eventually. By the time we got to high school, they were able to move to the suburbs and start their own business and everything. So they were, from what I could tell, they just were working constantly. They weren't involved with any movement or whatever. They were just normal, average people who just wanted to provide a better life for their kids. That was their motivation from what I could see. As far as myself personally, I grew up in a neighborhood that was kind of a mixture of like African American, Latino, Asian. We had like a lot of Vietnamese people where I grew up at. So I grew around like a whole everybody type thing. So I saw people from every group, and I never viewed people as whatever their group identity was, because I learned younger after meeting so many people that there's good and bad in every group. And so you can't judge anyone by their whatever group identity they have. You got to look at every person as an individual and judge them based on what they do and who they are, not based on their color, as if that's supposed to like represent who they are as a person.
Okay, so I'm hearing you on that. So here's the question. This gets us down to narrowing and coming more concise with the discussion that we're going to have next. Where do you fall as far as, would you fall on what we speak of on the show here on hashtag ObservationsTFR on an American black, even though you came to the country when you were 2, you grew up, so you basically are American black. You came in with immigrants. Your parents were immigrants, but you have experienced the American way of life. Do you side with what we talk about on the show about American blacks being independent and voting what's best for American blacks, or do you side with them bringing immigrants across the border, taking more rights away from American black people who actually built the country?
I'm not for, are you talking about illegal immigration specifically, or what you
I mean, whatever you want to call it. What's coming across the border right now? They're letting in illegals, and then they're saying, "Here's your court date." They might show up. They might not. I'm
against that completely. Yeah, I'm not for illegal immigration at all.
Mm-hmm. So then, being that you're a person who has experienced the American way of life, what is the solution to stopping the immigrant from coming in? What's the solution to stop the Democrat Party from their move? What is the solution?
Well, you just got to vote based on policy and not based on personality, which is what I noticed in America, unfortunately, what things have become. People voted on whether they like Trump, like Biden, don't like him, whatever the issue may be, rather than actually looking at their policies. And this is my personal thing when it comes to politics. But I don't care about the name, the party affiliation, all that development. I just look at the policy and I say, what are the pros and cons? What is the long-term, what is the short-term effect on the policy, whether it's positive or negative? And I just come to the conclusion, is this good or not? I'll give you an example, right? Like school choice, which is something that Trump and Republicans advocate for. I look at the policy and I like that policy, because when I look at the pros and cons, look at the short-term, long-term effect of it, I see it as a positive thing for the country and the positive thing for the black community. But I notice people resist it because it's been affiliated or associated with, say, Trump and Republicans. You get what I'm saying? And so I don't like the whole team or personality thing when it comes to politics. I think that's an issue. And if Americans didn't have the whole representative form of government, and let's say we voted directly on actual policies, like we just voted as a country on immigration or voted on taxes or voted on whatever thing, that'd be a lot more constructive, because it would get people to focus on the issue and not the person.
The issue or not the person. Okay. Well, we spoke yesterday briefly, and we're gonna later in the show we're gonna be talking about reparations. So Give a call back if you can a little bit later, and we'll bring you on. But we're going to move on with the rest of the show. All right?
Yes, sir. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. Let's go.
Thank you. Bye-bye. All right, people. So let's keep moving. So that was an interesting conversation. You see, that's building knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, building bridges to, that's just a great discussion to have with an individual that comes from whose origin is not being actually born here, or his people hasn't been here for generations. But what we find is, if you have experienced the American way of life and you see what is going on, then if you're real and you're true, you're going to say, hey, I'm more aligned with what American blacks who are aware of what's going on and who speak on the issues of equity, that I'll be more on that side. So let's continue on with our 25th show, a little segment from our 25th show, because this is our 100th show, and we're showing you how we developed over time. So let's go on. We were talking about the Biden plan for securing our values as a nation of immigrants. They're leaving one group of people out. People who built this boy.
The Biden plan for securing our values as a nation of immigrants. Let me be calm, because they accuse me of being a little hyperactive, right? I've never been accused of it until now. But let me say this again. The Biden plan for securing our values as a nation of immigrants. So what are those voices saying? As people emerge to continue to run with the torch of justice to try to get to and cross the finish line, what lessons didn't we learn from an era in American black upliftment, which the media kept from us with talk of holidays and birthdays and a quote-unquote dream? So this is episode 50, right? For those who are listening to us on Blog Talk, you won't be able to hear the segments. You have to get to a computer and look at us on the Film Review Life channel. You'll be able to hear the segments there of the pieces of the show. But we will be breaking in, and you'll be hearing me bring context to it as we move forward, right? So I'll just let you know that for those on the radio who are listening, you say, I'm not hearing this. You won't hear these segments because they're coming through straight to video. What do the voices from over a half a century echo to us, and what new voices have risen up to speak the words obscured, the direction never taken for American blacks to be rightful position in this society from then to now? Let's discuss. The phone lines are open, 213-943-3358 on this Election Day special episode, Freedom of Speech in the House, Part 2. Now, that definition, that meant we did that on the show yesterday, episode 49. So you had 2 episodes to watch. This one 49 and now 50. And then this one is standalone, but you still have 49 to go back to get the context of what the title means, right? But what does the Voices for American Blacks echo? The Voices for American Blacks echo. What do you think that means before we go further?
So in order to have an echo, there have had to have been a sound that preceded the echo. So it's echoing. That's a trick question for me, because you had some great orators speak in times past about things that, I mean, we play one every day, you know, to open the broadcast with Dr. Martin Luther King, and one of the speeches that's not so popular, that near the end of his life, he was starting to speak a little bit different about the things that was going on. And you had people that came along after that for a little while. And then at some point we reached a bottleneck. I don't know exactly when that occurred. I need to research it, but there was a bottleneck because this same word is not carrying among the masses. You have some people that remain consistent with it, but by and large, you don't have the majority speaking, and we scattered like sheeps and sheeple. That's what it is. The sheeple are scattered.
See, this is Stock Wednesday, so we wanted to show you Blackstone. Blackstone, we've told you about that. You should have some stock in Blackstone. We have to come back. All right. So you see, that was episode 50, and this now that we're showing on the screen is episode 75, which is how we are designed now, right? So you can see the transition from episode 1, 15, 25, 50, right? 75, right? Up until now, we are on 180. We are at 100, episode 100, and you see that we have gotten into talking about miscellaneous Mondays, Tasty Tuesday, what this is on the screen right now, which is Stock Wednesday, Truth Thursdays, which we are on right now, and of course, freaking Friday, which is tomorrow. So we have themed shows where we talk about what's happening in the world. And what we do on Stock Wednesday is drop information about stocks that you should have in your portfolio. Stock that either in real life can harm or help you should have it in your portfolio. And if you haven't started a portfolio of stock, you surely should. So let's continue on with this. I told you months ago, we said get stock in place. So now remember, this is just through experience. We're not stockbrokers, we're not experts, but we're just looking at what is turning and what is this acquisition here is going to be big. It's going to blow Blackstone up and out the water. It's going to go into the stratosphere, because they already collect strange types of commodities, right? They own you. I'm just gonna say they own you. Okay, they own you. They own your DNA. If you swabbed your mouth with the Ancestry.com, you swabbed your mouth in it, they own your DNA. So you should have stock in that, because if they own you, you should have stock in it, because they own you. They own you. They own strange things. It's strange things. You could go research for yourself, but from the Star Wars building to Ancestry.com and everything in between, and they are rising, baby.
And you paid them all.
Even when the market dips, they're still rising, baby. What you gotta say?
And you paid them to own you. I believe you paid them $99 and then sent your DNA in. So you're saying, here, have a piece of me, and I'm going to pay for the research too.
So you see, that is, a cross section of shows, 1, 15, 25, 50, and 75. And we are episode 100. So let's continue on with the memes, because we've got more to talk about on Truth Thursday. So this meme Raising my fist at the Olympics cost me my friends and marriage, but I do it again. Raising my fist at the Olympics cost me my friends and marriage, but I do it again. Interesting meme. Would you, if it cost you your friends, your marriage, would you do something again that was revolutionary? It cost you your friends, your marriage, all that. Here's one from out the news headlines. We're on the side of the teachers' unions. No reopening until it's safe for students and teachers. So Aaron says BLM and Susan Sarandon liked the DSA, Democrat Socialist, who wrote, "We're on the side of the teachers' unions. No reopening until it's safe for students and teachers." Listen, this whole argument is this whole argument about the teachers and having school is almost over, right? We're in February, March, April, May, June. What they really should be doing is voting on making sure that the schools are ready come this fall 2021. I mean, it's really easy to solve that problem by having the schools ready for fall 2021. Like putting kids back in midstream, like half of the school year is over. Like it's like using kids as pawns on the chessboard. It's like you're moving the kids around. Let the kids stay, finish up. Those who were strong. I mean, it's kind of like what the mayor said in the situation. You know, we mourn all people who have died who were innocent and death became them because of certain circumstances. But the school year is basically over, and so what you should be looking forward to is making sure that the buildings, the accommodations for students, everything is ready and fortified for the fall. Or this can play out into a whole nother year. It could just play out into a whole nother year because it's not ready in the fall. And that's where there's poor leadership in the White House right now, because he will not just speak up and tell people, say, hey, we're going to start this in the fall. Just begin it in the fall. And then there won't be any problem whatsoever. People will go back to school. Everything will be sterilized. The ventilation systems will be fixed. What it is to fix the public schools, especially where American blacks attend. They weren't supposed to be in the best condition, so they will be spending millions of dollars to bring them up to the same code that the suburban and the parochial schools have, and they really didn't mean for that to actually happen. So that's what the big problem is. And so when you have fresher air, you have fresher minds, and the new ventilation systems within the schools would bring about fresher minds, which would mean that people will be ready to be educated. It's not rocket science here. Okay. Here's one where in the midst of what's happening in the world today, the urge for teenagers to get a piece still reigns supreme. Instead of ratting out his teenage son, this dad turned to social media to give a play-by-play of his son's girlfriend's escape, and this is what the father wrote. So my stepson had a girl upstairs in his room that stayed the night, and my wife doesn't know yet. I'm curious on how he plans to smuggle her out now that the whole family is awake. And now what does he say there? And now we wait. Yes. Now they're awake and now we wait. How's he going to get her out of the house? It just goes to show you that in the midst of COVID-19, in the midst of students not being able to go to school, the youth's urge to be with his significant other has never failed, not once. Now, yesterday, unbeknownst to me, and thanks to XXL, yesterday, it was 1998, Silk the Shocker drops his sophomore album, Charge It to the Game. What's his best project? Charge It to the Game is by far Silk the Shocker's best project. I'm just sad that I didn't realize that on the day of the anniversary of it being released that I was not aware of it. So I posted today because those were the years Master P constantly releasing something every single week. It was a new release of music. He got in and struck while the getting was good, and he got it done. And so I have to say, give nothing but kudos to Master P, because he got it done, right? He got it done where people were criticized, made no difference to him. He got it done. Now, next meme, because you always have to have a little distraction while you're going through and talking, all right? So this comes from the words of Pharrell. All kings and queens are not born of royal bloodlines. Some become royal because of what they do once they realize who they are. Pharrell Williams. All kings and queens are not born of royal bloodlines. Some become royal because of what they do once they realize who they are. Pharrell Williams. How about Pharrell Williams, people? Huh? Now, enough distraction. Let's get to the rubber hitting the road. What we all came here for, right? What we all came here for. Which is what they've been talking about, which is reparations. Reparations. Sheila Jackson Lee has come up with a plan, y'all. She's come up with a plan. We talked about it. We spoke on it yesterday. But she's come up with a plan. They held the hearings yesterday, and I cannot. Usually I have my reader so that she can go through the article. So now I have to go and total recall on the article, whereas usually we state facts, right? Sheila Jackson Lee has held the congressional hearing on H.R. 40 again. It's been rebirthed again. And it is about, the hearing was about passing the bill to be able to start a commission on the study of reparations. On the study of reparations for American black people. Not the bill to pass to say how much American blacks will get. No, it's talking about getting 20 million plus to fund a commission where there will be a 13-member board to research should there be reparations for American blacks in this country. For American blacks who were the ones who actually built the country, were the ones who actually were enslaved in this country, why there is always an insult given when someone speaks of there being immigrants, this being an immigrant nation. When the immigrants came here, the nation was already rich. They were just coming to get some of the spoils. So what does the USA Today article, Righting Wrongs, Congress is taking another look at reparations for slavery. Sheila Jackson Lee. She is not an American black, right? Now, Representative Owens, who at the time, back in 2019, when it was back in 2019, he was just a person that was called to be a counterpoint for the Republicans, is now a congressman. And he said that he's black, and he says that this is a non-starter. This is a non-starter. This is not going to happen. He's black. He's Republican. It's a non-starter. It's not going to happen. Now, they say that they most likely have the votes through the Democrats to pass it, but they need at least 10 Republicans on the Senate side to pass it through. And we already know what Mitch McConnell, who is the minority leader now, believed about reparations. He said that he was saying we as the Caucasians, so I want to speak as he said, we as the Caucasians now should not be burdened with what happened 150 years ago. That, matter of fact, black people got their reparations with Obama. Yeah, that's what he said. That's what he said. Look. What's interesting about all this is that they are finding a way to make money off of a hardship, and it may not pan out that American blacks, descendants of slaves, get anything. Why do you need to have a study when there are plenty of people out there who have already done the studies? We have ADOS. They've already done the studies. They've already broke it down. It's just a way to try to appease, but never truly please. It's just a way to appease, but truly never please. 213-943-3358. 213-943-3358. I really can't read what you said, Stu. Everything I'm here for a movie. I'm not sure what that means, but righting wrongs, Congress is taking another look at reparations. So this is my conclusion on it, right? Let me bring this down so that you can see me clearly before we move on, all right? This is my take on it, and I want to be clear. If there is a money grab, if they plan to have a money grab, have a 13-member board making a certain amount a year to do this research, it would be better if they did not have the reparations topic raised at all, because there are people who will be involved. I'm almost sure that they're going to include people who are not American black in this. I'm sure they're going to include some Hispanics, some Asians. They're going to they have blacks that are not there are blacks who are not American black that are on the board that will automatically be getting paid to do so-called research. If you're going to bring all this multiculturalism, but this is supposed to be something that's proposed by the CBC, leave that be. Leave it be. Let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Okay? Let it be. Because the American black Holocaust in this country is not to be made money up off of by having a commission where 13 members get paid, right? So that's my take on it. That's my take on it, on the reparations situation, on the call of reparations. So people, this has been episode 100. Episode 100 of Observations TFR. Wait a minute. Wait. There is one more topic. There's one more topic that my producer brought to me in the 23rd hour. And the topic is LeBron James. I don't even know why we're having an all-star game. Calls decision a slap in the face. Now, what's happening? Silver, the commissioner of basketball, is calling for there to be an NBA All-Star game in Atlanta, GA, right? He's calling for an all-star game to be in Atlanta, GA. Now, this proposed all-star situation is not in the bubble. This is something so that it appears so that the NBA can make money. It is not something where the NBA is in the bubble and they just have them playing there. He wants to have an all-star game in Atlanta. Now, there's a lot of red flags that go up on this. First of all, Atlanta, GA is, even though there are whites in the outskirts and they come in like what happened when dude broke out the courthouse, all the whites came from out the woodwork to hunt him down, and it was a woman in white gloves that soothed the savage breast by giving him heroin. Remember that? That was about 10, 15 years ago. But anyway. This is a chocolate city, and LeBron James is vehemently against this taking place for the ultimate reasons. One, there are still players who are affected by the virus. There are people who have had the virus who are having those long-term effects from the virus, that are trying to be ready, to play. And then they're playing in the bubble, but now they want them to come from out the bubble. So LeBron James is vehemently against this. Now, remember when Silver called on Obama to call LeBron so that the players would organize and come back out and play in the bubble. Remember that? Well, it's time for LeBron to call Obama and have Obama talk to Silva about killing this, right? Killing this idea, this deadly, deadly idea that will mostly affect American black people and majority black people who would fly in from around the globe, etc., to come to this all-star game. It would be mostly black people being affected, ATL, people from around the country, other people would come too, but mostly it's a American black affected by the effect of this virus, right? So the player situation is 1. The situation of where they're playing at is 2. Here's a side note. Didn't LeBron get out there and campaign for 46? Sure he did. Biden, 46. So he should be able to get on the phone with Biden. Biden call Silva and say, this is a bad idea. Now, that's usually owners don't talk to other owners about doing different things. So he should be on the phone, being he was doing all that campaigning, and being that Obama could reach out to him, he can reach out to Obama. Obama could reach out to Silva, and since this was Negro whispering going on, right? Mayor Bottoms got involved, and she is on LeBron James' side. Said, please do not bring the All-Star game to Atlanta. It was just here. It's no need to have it here again. So this is what's happening. This is what's not being covered in the news. Maybe it's being covered on ESPN, but I doubt it, because ESPN is a bought and sold platform. So I don't believe that it's being covered on there. But I'm sure that after we cover it here on hashtag ObservationsTFR, that it will be covered. The Lakers had only 71 days off between winning the championship and opening day, and you want to have an all-star game open to the public because you saw what the NFL did, but the NFL had all problems all year with the virus, right? And why would you want to follow behind them when they should have been following behind you, Silva? So that's what's going on. Let's read what some of the people said. Tracy Latree said, congratulations on the 100th show. Stuart Elsie said, congratulations on the 100th show. Get ready for syndication. Yes, to from your mouth to and your writings to the syndication gods. Yes. So we're going to keep you posted as this is coming up, because this is Truth Thursday, so we had to definitely address that, because LeBron James and the commissioner of basketball are at each other's proverbial throats, going back and forth, texting or tweeting or twitting on Twitter, right? And everyone is chiming in on this. Would you like to see an all-star game in Atlanta again? Would you go to an all-star game in Atlanta? Will the players boycott this and not show? That is the $1 million question, right? That is the $1 million question. So, people, this has been the 100th episode of hashtag ObservationsTFR. I ran solo today. You know what I mean? But we made it happen still, and we got through a robust show. We'd like to thank Mike for calling up, and giving his viewpoint as an Ethiopian American, right? We appreciate his viewpoint. And if you ever want to put your viewpoint across without having a agenda to put across, feel free to call up 213-943-3358 so we can have dialogue and go back and forth. Don't come with an agenda, come with answers and come with solutions, right? So people, this has been the 100th episode of Observations TFR. We come on Monday through Friday, 9:30 a.m. Pacific, 12:30 p.m. Eastern, right? The flagship show comes on Sundays, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. in Eastern. Hashtag TFR Podcast Live. That's my wife and I, as we review movies, music, culture, politics, society, podcast on the podcast call, hashtag TFR Podcast Live. On Sundays earlier is the podcast by my sister Tanya, What's the Point Podcast. Comes on at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 noon Eastern. Make sure you tune in. And everything that you hear, because I work hard to make this happen, right? And we make sure that we are on the platforms that are your favorite podcast providers. You can hear us, hear the replays on Stitcher, also on Google Podcasts, also on iHeartRadio, and Tune In, which is a subsidiary of Apple Podcasts. So we appreciate you tuning in with us and listening to our programming. And you know what programming that we have that comes on at 7 p.m. Monday through Friday that you probably haven't noticed, but it's there and it plays on those various podcast providers. It comes on at 7 and then it's up about an hour later on those particular podcast providers. Is Just Movie Reviews. Just Movie Reviews, where we review movies, the reviews to save you pocket revenue, right? So make sure that you check that out at 7 p.m. and it goes up on, or check it out on the various podcast providers. We appreciate you. We appreciate everyone who tuned in today. There was some fishiness, but with everything going on, I just decided not to even mention that. But now it's back to normal. But we appreciate you tuning in with us. And we are proud to bring you quality programming Monday through Friday with hashtag ObservationsTFR. And we will see you tomorrow with another great episode of the show. Hashtag ObservationsTFR.
Here's the thing about your movie, why I made a curator's pick of the Hollywood Fringe Festival. Community, heart.
Observations TFR, 9:30 a.m. Pacific, 12:30 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday.